Thursday, April 8th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we talk about the new Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles game for the DS.
Let's do this. Dave hates Advance Wars.
Why does Dave hate Advance Wars?
Because it's so hard.
It's not that hard if you're smart.
I know. But on his latest show, he was talking about there are more PSP games he likes than DS, but he said it really depends on what kind of games you like and how he doesn't really do the Advance Wars so well.
The thing is, the Advance Wars alone was enough for me to buy a DS.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we didn't really have much to talk about. Nothing exciting happened today. Scott's train was weird, and I was tired on the train.
I was real tired on the train. I need to eat fierce food. Let's go get now.
Yeah, well, usually I'm the one who's like, hey, let's eat. And you're like, so here we go. Tide's turn. Table's over there.
And the worst part, right, is I was going to buy like a rye bread on the way home, but I left all my cash at home. And I didn't want to get out more cash from the ATM because I had so much on my desk.
Because I took a later train, so I had like a half hour to kill before I took it. So I tried to buy a belt. I learned that H&M didn't have a belt in my size, and I went and I got some samosa.
Buying belts is really hard.
Yeah.
This belt I have, it's weird. When I was in high school, I had a belt that lasted like 100 years. Well, it felt like 100 years, right? Then I bought another one, and it lasted a super long time
I think part of it was, when I was young, I didn't really wear a belt, ever.
Oh, I wore a belt. I wore a belt like every day for a long time.
Man, what kind of... Because we grew up at the same time. We were in the same grades and everything, but... When I was in like middle school and early high school, the style of the times was everyone wore blue jeans. Everyone wore
I wear a belt when I wear jeans.
Like a black t-shirt, untucked, and you don't need a belt if you're wearing untucked.
I have the belt under my untucked shirt.
You don't need that unless your pants are way too big.
No, my pants aren't too big. I wear the belt even if my pants stay up on their own.
Why?
I don't know. I just do.
Plus, it makes an extra little bulge. You don't want that. And then you wear a flannel shirt over that.
Plus, I think it's also the belt you can hook things onto it.
But we didn't have cell phones back then. What would you have hooked to it?
I had a cell phone.
Well, I had one, but it was too big to hook to my belt.
No. Well, you're talking about a little longer ago than I'm talking about.
I'm talking about middle school.
Oh, I'm talking about high school. But regardless, I always wear a belt. But recently, my belts have been but not because of stretching or fatness, just because of getting worn out of putting them on, taking them off. But it's like the mechanism on the belt breaks, or the holes on the belt sort of wear out.
Wow,
they don't make belts like they used to.
I've never had a belt wear out. I'm buying a new one solely because my current one is a little chipped on the buckle and it looks bad. So I'm going to buy a new one. It's perfectly functional.
The last belt I had wore out, and this one's not doing too well.
In fact, my other belt, the only other belt I own other than my dress belt, is the same one that I've worn since 6th grade.
I think I'm just going to get a rope because I think that'll do a lot better.
A lot of people use that as a style now.
Just like a climbing rope, because that'll fucking never break. It costs a lot, but I only need to get a few
I know
feet.
you've been using that fancy new knot on your shoes. What kind of knot are you going to use for your belt? There's 1,000 options.
Oh, see, that's the thing is, people have different belt buckles.
You're going to have a different knot every
big
day?
cowboy buckles that are really awesome, but they keep switching them up from day to day.
Yeah.
I would just have a different knot every day. I'd be like, today we're going to do a 2-in-hand.
So how come you're so excited about knots and belts and knots and shoes, but yet you only know how to tie one kind of tie, and it's the weakest tying tie?
Because tying a tie is harder than tying a rope.
No, it's not. It's really easy. Just there's YouTube videos, God.
I know. I watched those YouTube videos, and I copied them. But the point is it's... Because it's around your neck and you got to use a mirror, it's more difficult than just tying a rope that's right in front of you.
Oh, yeah, you definitely need to use a mirror if you suck.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway, I'm a fan of the full Windsor. But on the train, I finally, because I stopped playing Advance Wars.
I also stopped playing Advance Wars when I got to the owl mission.
That's the only mission I ever got a C on.
Yeah, I could beat it. It's the way I try to do it, and it's just tedious.
Well, you're doing it wrong.
I'm probably doing it wrong, but the
only reason I got a C is because basically there's two ways to play Advance Wars. And this is in every Advance Wars other than this one. The newest one is not quite like this, but you can either play perfectly and pretty much never lose units, or play realistically, and I will lines of infantry marching forward to their death.
Yeah. It's pretty much either overwhelm the guy with superior force and tactics and but people are dying all over the place, or build a very small amount of units very cleverly so you sneak in and win somehow
Well,
by
the thing
magic.
is, what I love about the new Advance Wars is that for the most part, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It is a real war game. It's like the best, oh my god, Advance Wars is such a good game.
It's pretty good, but yeah, it's just
But I stopped playing it because I had a million other games to play and I've been watching Avatar, but I suddenly had the Advance Wars bug again, which I get periodically. Like when I lived in the mountains out in Pokeway, that was when I decided, you know what? I'm going to beat the Advance campaign on Advance Wars 1, and I'm going to keep beating it until I get an S.
oh, that's just a great idea.
And then I did the same thing in every other Advance Wars, and as of today, I finally beat every single mission in Advance Wars on that campaign
with
screen.
an S.
I got almost all S's and A's.
Almost.
And I have like 1 C, the owl mission, and I have 2 B's.
You gotta tell me how to do that stupid owl, because if I beat that, I'd probably pick up the game and finish it off.
All right, go around the edges.
I did that. It just took so long.
Slow. How long do you think you can beat it in like 40 days?
That's a long time.
You might not like the rest of that game then, because I'm going to warn you about something. One of the, a lot of the missions, there's one in particular that's called J Islands. It's a 4-player, every man for himself map against the AI.
I think I beat that one.
Did you?
I don't know.
How long did it take you? Because I beat it in like 50-something days with heavy losses.
I did play a map that was 4 islands, every man for himself. And
There's a lot of maps like that.
I know, but basically all I did was I attacked one of the other islands, took it over, and as soon as I had 2 islands, the other 2 islands were just cake. I just washed them over.
Despite taking forever and taking heavy losses, I got an S because that's what it expected you to do.
Yeah, I think I got an S also on whichever one I'm thinking of.
I don't know why you're having so much trouble with the owl. The one after it is 1,000 times harder.
Well, I haven't had that one yet, have I?
You know what?
So,
You're
how
not
would I
gonna.
know?
It's kind of like, man, I can't climb this 10-foot rope. If only I could
it's
climb
like
this
I
10-foot
could climb
rope.
the 10-foot rope, but it would hurt. So it's kind of like it's not fun, and it's supposed to be fun. It's
But
a
Scott,
video game, so I'm not going to do it.
Here's the problem. All right, I don't want to climb this 10-foot rope. Little do you know that behind the 10-foot rope is a 1,000-foot rope.
Yeah. In Advance Wars, really, depending on the map and the scenario, it's either super fun or maybe not so fun.
The thing is, I've noticed,
at least for me,
you don't seem to like maps that involve a lot of tactics or strategy, or are very large, or are complicated.
I tend to like the smaller maps.
But that's because then the game's a puzzle. It's just battle lore, but not as random.
And I tend to like the maps that don't have like land, sea, and air. I like sort of like just.
Oh no, you need all 3 because then there's so much to the game.
Yeah, I like sort of like just land and sea or land and air, just land.
Maybe after the show, while we're eating Chinese food, we can play some tiny maps.
Tiny maps are okay. I like tiny maps.
What I really want to talk about is I've been playing on the Wi-Fi a lot because a lot of people are on there, and I don't know. I've decided that even though it's not challenging, like playing on the Wi-Fi it almost wouldn't be fun because you can't lose to these people ever. But there's something about like beating the AI is one thing, especially because the AI is really good, but you don't really get that visceral satisfaction. But every time I play on the Wi-Fi, it's like I get these moments where I'm spreading out all over the map and my guys are everywhere. And it's always fog of war. And like, I'll see him like run a few of the guys he sent out into my mass to the north. And I know on the other, he's going, God damn it. All right, at least I can take the area to the south. And then he runs into my guys down there too. At least I can take the middle. Then he runs into my guys there. And that's right about when they always quit. I don't know if I'm just a freak and am like beyond good at this game, or I'm playing against the wrong people, but I've never lost. Good God.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just had to keep playing online until like you have the highest rank or whatever, and then maybe someone will realize you're so awesome, or I don't know.
I'm scared because I asked in the forum and no one answered. Is anyone out there good at Advance Wars? I want to play against someone who's good. No one in the front row crew is good. And yes, I'm serious about that, you people.
None of us
you front row crew people.
We're not claiming to be good.
Pretty much every time we play, it'll be a 4-player free-for-all. And it's like, Scott will always be yelling, all right, other Scott, don't let Rim win. Don't let Rim win. Let's all gang up on Rim. But then no one gangs up on me. And then the next thing they know, I've got 3/4 of the
Even
map.
if they do gang up on you, it only helps a little. We really have to gang up on you full on first.
I kind of want to make a video of like how to be good at Advance Wars.
Yeah, we need to get one of those DS video capture thingies.
Yeah, the problem is the answer is very simple. Plan 20 turns in advance. Count all your money. Spend exactly all of it all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you got in the news? You can tell it was kind of a light news day.
Yeah, there wasn't so much news going on, but I did notice something that is very special for me. Nintendo with the Wii and the Virtual Console, it's been a while since we talked about the Virtual Console, but Nintendo has been releasing new games in the Virtual Console every Monday as promised since the Wii came out. And that's pretty impressive. They just kept it up. They kept on trucking,
Well, probably because they're making so much money off of this. Good
It's
God.
weird. It's like I could easily have ROMs.
I do
but
have
I
ROMs.
buy Virtual Console games anyway.
I do have ROMs.
Really?
I have every ROM.
The reason it's worth it for me to buy them is because number one, I don't buy that many, so it's even though it's a rip-off price, it's not. I don't buy so many that it hurts my wallet.
Yeah, too. They are perfect. Like if you want to play Star Tropics, that's the only way to play it.
Yeah,
because those ROMs,
the ROMs don't work.
The ROMs are all. Of course, the game barely works.
I know. And the other thing that you get by buying the Virtual Console games is you get to play with a decent controller. Now, you might be saying, plug a gamepad into your PC. It's fine.
No. Well, one, no, it's not. Good God. But two,
well, you could get a higher quality. You can use an Xbox 360 controller on your PC.
That's still pretty crap for these games. What you need is the SNES USB controller.
Yeah, you can get that too.
Or you could just associate your Wiimote Bluetooth-wise.
Yeah, you could do that too. But this just sort of works, and it's easy to do 2-player and all that. So, for a game that's a really special game, I'll buy the Virtual Console game. And for a long time, most of the Virtual Console games are coming out. Some of them have been good, but none of them really made me want to spend money on them in a long time.
You gotta be in the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out class of game.
Yeah, I think that's like the last one we bought, right?
Yeah, pretty
or
much.
Or F-Zero X, I think I also bought.
Oh, God, if Super Dodgeball hits that thing.
Super Dodgeball is going to hit the DS soon.
I know, but I want the original on the VC,
But anyway, this week, they came out yesterday with 2 Virtual Console games that are must-buys. They're both games I originally owned on the NES, and I'm going to buy them again. It's so sad. The first game is a little story, right? So Emily has this baseball anime she likes, right? And like you're in the kitchen once, and she was just like ja 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 ja, and I was like, "Are you singing the song from Bases Loaded?" Because like Emily's cool and she plays video games, but I didn't think she ever played Bases Loaded. So I was like, how does she know the song from Bases Loaded?
It's like most people our age don't know the song from Bases Loaded.
I know. So she is our age, guess close to it.
Well, it's weird how we're so close in age, and yet we're definitely children of the 80s, and she is definitely more a child of the 90s.
Yeah. But anyway, she's just like, yes! And I'm like, how do you know Bases Loaded? And she was like, in the baseball anime I watch, the guy like came up to bat and he was singing ja 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 ja. So obviously, the people who make the baseball anime played Bases Loaded for the NES, and they had their character also play Bases Loaded for the NES. And I'm thinking, wow, if I played baseball, I would probably be. I would have them play that when I went up to the went up to bat on the the PA system. But
because that is one of the best baseball. I mean,
Bases Loaded. I mean, if you're talking about good baseball games, it's pretty much. It's like with every sports game, there's an unrealistic and a realistic, right? So, for example, with ice hockey, realistic, you've got Blades of Steel, and unrealistic, ice hockey. With baseball, you've got Baseball Simulator 1000 or 10,000 or a million or whatever.
1,000.
Yeah.
Well, 1.0.
And for realistic, you've got Bases Loaded. For football, you've got unrealistic Mutant League Football, and you got realistic Tecmo Bowl, right? So Bases Loaded, I think, is there's just something about that game. It doesn't have any official teams, right? But it has great music. The controls and the fielding actually work. The hitting and pitching mechanic is actually complex. You actually have to put in relief pitchers, because they wear out. And they all have different pitching styles, and it's really interesting to watch the way different guys throw the ball. And all the batters have different stances, and they have their you see their names up there, and they actually, even though they don't say anything, they barely have any faces, they all have character. And I always played as this one team. And it's some of the batters just better than others, as they should be. And it's
Man,
like,
I used to sit there and make all the stats for all my teams in Baseball Simulator.
yeah, but it's like, I had like characters on my team like Warner, and I was like, oh, Warner's my man. He stands up perfectly straight, and he just always hits a home run. And it's like I had certain pitchers I chose in a certain order. Like I remembered their numbers. I was like, I use you first, and I use you in the middle of the game, and then you come in and you're the relief pitcher. And like they all had a different style, and it's a high quality baseball game, and it's awesome. So the other game is a game I love that Rim hates, called Yoshi's Cookie.
Fuck that game.
Yoshi's
that game
Cookie
was crap. I'm
owns.
sorry. That game was just not
Yoshi's
fun.
Cookie is the best.
There are much
Yoshi's
better
Cookie
games.
is the best. The best
game.
2-player versus puzzle game ever.
I much prefer, puzzle game, Advance Wars 1.
Now, you know what I mean? That sort of blocks moving around Tetris-y kind of puzzle
I don't
game.
know, Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario's real good. It's real good.
Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario's
win.
awesome, but I think Yoshi's Cookie has a slight edge because Yoshi's Cookie has this sort of mechanic where you line up the Yoshi cookies with just the right timing to get like the certain effect to happen, and I just love Yoshi's Cookie. This is the NES version. There was an SNES version, which is basically improved graphics and sound and a few extra features, but really I think the NES version was the best implementation of Yoshi's Cookie, and I really like Yoshi's Cookie. So if you like puzzly games, Yoshi's Cookie, Yoshi's Cookie, Yoshi's Cookie. Not the original Yoshi. Remember the game that was just called Yoshi for the Game Boy and the NES?
I'm trying to remember.
It was like the things would come down and you would there would be bloopers and Goombas and cheap cheeps, and you'd have bottoms of shells and tops of shells.
The game was crap.
And it was okay, but
it was pretty bad.
Mario would just sort of spin the things around. You'd have a lot of control and you couldn't. But it was an okay Game Boy game, I guess. But Yoshi's Cookie was far superior.
So I got a real brief news just because this is kind of interesting, but Nintendo has been working with Pokemon to fight counterfeiters.
Well, Nintendo is Pokemon.
Yes, but it's funny because this headline here says, quote, Nintendo and Pokemon.
Well, I think Pokemon is like this Game Freaks, and it's sort of like this subdivision of Nintendo that's sort of Nintendo owns it, but it's like
here's the explanation. It turns out that Nintendo sent Ash along with Charizard, so there we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anyway, pretty much the deal here is that there's Pokemon piracy, but it's not the games, it's the cards for the card game. And there's a multi-million-dollar worldwide bootlegging organization.
How come no one's bootlegging Magic cards?
I'll bet people were.
Maybe.
I would.
But I mean,
No, I wouldn't bootleg them. But if I were playing Magic back in the day before, kind of this new wave of everyone plays these sealed deck whatever tournaments, I would have had so many bootleg Magic cards.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
I used to play, actually, with a lot of, Italian Magic cards because they reprinted Lotuses and everything in Italy with pretty much as many as you wanted. But then tournaments caught on and they wouldn't let you play with non-English cards.
Boo.
Even though anyway.
It's bullshit.
But I found this kind of funny. So kids, if you play the Pokemon game, the card game, well, mostly parents, your kids play the Pokemon game, go to Chinatown. You can buy those cards real cheap.
Yeah, and what's the difference? As long as they're in English, right? You can read them, you can play with them. So what the fuck do you care if they're not official, real deal, whatevers?
Well, it's bad for Nintendo.
Nintendo is doing just fine. Trust
It is
me.
illegal.
Yeah, I guess it really is a copyright infringement in
It's
a way.
no different than stealing a DVD.
I guess, but
Buying a Pokemon
I don't have
card.
for some reason it feels like it's not bad, but I guess it is kind of.
I just find it funny. I'm indifferent.
Yeah. It's like from the player's standpoint, it's like, why not? The thing is, I think it would piss off a lot of people who are like collectors. But if you're a collector, it's like, screw you. It's a game. It's meant to be played for fun. If you need money, get a job. You'll make a lot more money getting a job than collecting stupid Pokemon cards.
Well, there's one thing, people who collect it because they like them. But I know a lot of people who collect collectible card games because they're sure that much like Magic the Gathering, they'll increase in value. Now,
even if they do,
well,
the amount of time and effort it takes to collect them and do all that bullshit in eBay and all that stuff,
not only
you could be working and making a lot more money at a job.
My Mox Emerald and whatever Magic cards I've got for I got a revised set and all this stuff. They're not really worth much more now than they were 10 years ago.
I make enough to buy a revised set in like less than a week.
Well, la-di-da,
I don't know.
Captain Monocle.
Well, I don't know how much is a revised. Let's go see on eBay.
You gonna go find out?
I'm gonna see how much one's going for on eBay.
All right, I'll stall for some time because God.
Do your news. Oh,
That
was
was
your
my
news.
news.
Oh, okay.
So Advance Wars. But seriously, pretty much everyone I've played against online is
Oh my
quit.
God!
Huh?
There's a Magic the Gathering complete revised set, near mint to mint,
All right.
on eBay. All right. The auction will be over.
Now remember, Revised was the first real release of Magic. I mean, there was Unlimited and Revised.
Yep. The auction only has 15 hours left. Okay. Guess what the price on this? There's 5 bids. This is a real deal auction. Guess what the price is?
$1,000.
Not even close.
$10,000.
Not even close.
$100,000.
No, you're getting farther away.
$20.
No, it's $150.75.
Wow. My Magic cards were worth a lot more 10 years ago than they are now.
But meanwhile, right under that, there's Magic the Gathering 40 revised dual lands.
I have like multiples of every dual land. Those things were uncommon. They weren't rare.
Yeah, but those are the only dual lands there. Meanwhile, the set of 40 dual lands has 16 bids, is going to be over in a day, and it's $600.
Huh.
So that revised set must have one of each dual land in
Scott,
it, right?
Think carefully, does it? Does it?
Yes, it does.
Ah.
Anyway, freaking collectors, get a job.
So things of the day. I'm continuing my Those Were the Days theme week. I think this is pretty cool. But thing of the day, I'm using it partly because it's so barely related. The guy happens to play the song Those Were the Days, but the real reason I'm using this because I'm sure many of you have heard this instrument before. Yeah, I mean it's a really
Theremin?
No, not the theremin.
No, the kazoo?
Not the kazoo.
No,
The Hammond organ.
Hammond organ's all right.
I like the Hammond organ a lot. In fact, my grandma had a Hammond organ that I used to play constantly as a little kid.
That's the one with like there's like 2 pianos, one on top of the other, and there's these things you can pull on that sort of point towards you.
Yep, and
that are
those
different
those
colors.
determine like what harmonics you'll get to play.
And there's also pedals.
There's also pedals.
And
Basically,
it's kind of small though, right? It's like
well, they can be big, but the
they
thing
could
is,
be, but it's the ones
basically,
you buy are like
what they were early synthesizers, and a lot of like churches would use them as a low-cost alternative to a pipe organ because pipe organs are some of the
expensive and
most
hard to
expensive
make.
things that can ever exist. See, as down as I am on religion, I really, really like pipe organs. That pretty much, you want to get me into a church, the fastest way to do it is to tell me there's a pipe organ there.
they just turn all churches into at least the ones with pipe organs into just organ concert halls.
Actually, there's a somewhat famous pipe organ up in Poughkeepsie. There's concerts semi-regularly. I just haven't had time to head up there.
But is it all churchy?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, the Hammond organ is used extensively in blues and jazz, and the Blues Brothers movie. The Hammond organ is everywhere, and when you hear it played, you'll know exactly what that instrument is. Part of the reason they're really cool is that, kind of like a pipe organ, one person can play the melody and the harmony and the bass line at the same time. And this exemplifies that. It's a good video, and if you're interested in Hammond organs, let me know. I'll do a show on them because I kind of know a lot about them, and they're kind of cool.
I know nothing about Hammond organs other than what they look and sound like. I don't know how to play one. I don't know how it works.
What they look and sound like is mostly what you need to know.
Okay.
How they work is not that interesting. It's basically...
Aren't some of them like electronic? Or
They're all electronic.
yeah. So it's
Here's
like
the deal. They were early synthesizers for the
I remember
most part.
like I was at someone's house who had one. They plugged it in and it started like whirring and made
Yeah.
a loud noise.
Well,
Before you even pushed any keys.
part of the deal, too, is that they kind of sounded bad early on. Like, they had a lot of problems. But now, people who use these things, like, they got used to those bad sounds, so technology got better. But people want them to still sound that way. That sound that's kind of hissy and wavery and bad is what people like. That's why they
fine.
use a
I'm sure we
Hammond.
can just simulate Hammond organs with computers now.
Oh, we most definitely can.
So what? We don't need Hammond organs anymore.
Well, you still need the Hammond organ interface if you want to play.
Well, you could just take like a double keyboard with levers and plug it into the computer.
You could.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone's done that.
I'm sure someone
Maybe.
I'm sure if you went to those people who sell organs to old people to rip them off, that they would have for you a MIDI Hammond organ.
No, you don't want MIDI. I already realized a wonderful market opportunity. So we make a Hammond console that has all the interface of a Hammond, right?
And it's also a computer?
It's two pieces. The piece that goes on the desk and then the pedal board for your feet is separate.
All right.
And it's just USB. And then we sell software.
All right.
That would make...
We have Hammond Hero?
Ha! You know what I do, though? I would use the Hammond interface to play like TIE Fighter.
That would be... All right. Can I do my
All
thing?
right, yeah, you can do your thing.
So, there's an NES game called Glider. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Because it's kind of scarily new. That's why.
Is this one of those someone put together a hacked ROM and made an NES game?
Actually, no. It says here, Glider game and name copyright 1989 John Calhoun. But it looks like a really new NES game. At least I never heard of it before now. And it says coming early April. So it's early April, and I think they sold out. Are
you sure it's not coming early April 1990?
I'm sure, because this is all over all the video game news websites like right now. But basically, that's not the important part of the story, the game itself. The game itself is, it's a game where you control a paper airplane and, like, air vents lift you up, but you try to get across the room without touching the floor. You know that game, all right? The important part of this game is it's on an NES cartridge. You can play it in an NES. It will work, right? But the NES cartridge, right? If you were going to make an NES cartridge today, right, what would you put on the circuit board in the NES cartridge?
Probably an emulator.
No, like hardware-wise.
A hardware NES emulator. It wouldn't be that hard.
Probably, no.
And then a bunch of ROMs.
No, well, what they did put in there...
A
right?
USB?
Well, not actually, it's not a USB, but there is some flash memory. Instead of, just, ROM, like in the olden days.
So they have a flash memory and then like an NES interface?
No, if you buy a separate device called a USB copy NES, right? Which is a device that is basically takes NES cartridge on one side and USB on the other side.
Huh.
If you buy that device, which could normally allow you, I think, to rip ROMs, if you get that device, then you can download and flash new levels into this game. And, that's not so exciting nowadays where we have, like the R4 for the DS and stuff like that, right? But imagine if someone had given you back in the day an NES cartridge where you could put new levels onto that cartridge.
I remember in middle school, there was a kid in our street who claimed that he had a ROM dumper.
Uh-huh.
It turned out, no, he had a Game Genie.
Yeah.
But suffice to say.
No, but like...
That was the same kid who stole another kid's Mega Man 3 and then traded it to me for Hydlide.
Well, he got the worst end of that
But
deal.
then the kid came and he's like, where's my Mega Man 3? And I was like, I traded Hydlide for it. You're not getting it back.
I would have given it back saying, don't worry, that kid got what he deserved. He got Hydlide. Hydlide is shit.
I did give it back.
Yeah, I mean, Hydlide is crap. I'd rather have nothing than have Hydlide.
The thing is, Hydlide was not the worst game on the NES.
No, it wasn't, but like it was weird because you look at Hydlide
and you're like,
and you
that
look
game
at
is
the
gonna be
concept
awesome.
of Hydlide and you go, God damn, that's awesome.
But then you play it and it doesn't work. You just die.
If someone made a Hydlide that worked, that'd be awesome. Oh, so awesome. But yeah, is a cool NES game. You could play it in NES, but you could flash new levels into it, and that's pretty awesome.
I gotta say though, saying, oh, what if you gave it to yourself as a kid? What if you gave yourself a DS as a kid?
Holy shit!
What if
shit your pants?
An iPod, an MP3 player.
I just pee on everybody.
The monitor I have now, I don't know what I'd do if I saw a monitor like this 20 years ago.
I think it was like a TV.
But it's flat.
Oh right.
It's flat.
Oh shit. Goddamn.
Just give a kid the USB drive I got right here.
I would just sell it to the richest person on earth for like $1 bajillion.
One, the USB drive, I'd be like, what's that? But two, if someone said there were 2 gigabytes on that, I said,
oh my God, I remember in summer
what's
camp,
a gigabyte?
they had the guy had this big box. Like it was big. It was like, it was the size of like an automatic card shuffler, that's, like that kind of big, right? And it was heavy. Like it weighed a good 10 pounds or more, right? And it had a little Apple on it, and it was an external hard drive. And they said, and the guy was from England. He was like, this is 1 gigabyte. That was an Australian accent, sorry. Right? But it was 1 gigabyte. And it was like, and everyone was like, holy shit. Holy shit, 1 gigabyte, right?
Wow.
But now I carry 1 gigabyte like is smaller than my finger.
I carry 2, and in the Morants is 4.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's do the show.
Okay, so what are we talking about tonight?
We're going to talk about that DS game, the terrible one.
Oh,
we revealed it was terrible.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the DS.
Ring of Fates. Ring of Fates.
It's
they're not even going to beat around the bush. It's a bad game.
This game is
with little redeeming qualities.
It's bad to the point that I'd pre-ordered 2 copies of it, and then I had pre-ordered a 3rd copy for Emily because we thought, oh, we'll all play it together. You know, like the other Crystal Chronicles, which we have described more than once as a transcendent experience.
Even worse, because it was a Square Enix game, right, that said Final Fantasy on it, it was $40 instead of the usual $30 DS game price.
So, all right. Not only did I cancel the 3rd pre-order for Emily, but I played 2 of the quote-unquote missions, and I poked around at everything else, and I don't know. Anyone want the game?
Yeah, well, I got to get rid of this game because
I think I'm going to give mine to Emily so she can see, and then we'll give it away to someone else.
Yeah. Maybe she'll like it because she's never played a game like that, but I doubt it.
The game could have been fun if you'd handed it to me along with the DS back when I had my Game Gear. But even then, Crystal Warriors for the Game Gear was a much better game than
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Of course, I'll warn you all because it's relevant. Crystal Warriors for the Game Gear is just Advance Wars, but fantasy.
Well, it's that you mean it's Fire Emblem.
It's more like Advance Wars.
Speaking of Fire Emblem, because Fire Emblem DS is eventually coming for sure, but not soon, I pre-ordered Rondo of Swords from Atlas, which is going to come out on the 15th. I can't guarantee this is going to be good, but, it's a normal $30 price DS game. And from what I've seen, it has the potential to sort of sate your Fire Emblem desires until Fire Emblem DS comes out.
I'll hold out until Scott tries it. Before
I pre-ordered on Amazon, so it's like a week away. So
plus, I got some time. I gotta work all my rankings in Advance Wars up to S.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, I'll tell you if it's a good buy or not. All right. Anyway, so Crystal Chronicles: Ring of Fates for the DS. I'm pretty sure first we're going to bash this game directly, and then we're going to compare it to the original Crystal Chronicles.
All right, so starts out right away. I started, and the music sounds really good. And then I watched the opening kind of like sequence. Now, I remember when we played Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube, and the opening movie was... it wasn't beautiful in an animation sense because it was mostly gameplay.
It's mostly the music that was beautiful.
But the music and the atmosphere and everything the potential that they put before me was wonderful. And it gave us all that feeling of we're about to have a gaming experience.
And we sure did.
So
even though that game really, that game was poop. Well, the original Crystal Chronicles, right? As a game, not the greatest game. It was pretty much a walk around hit things game.
But what it was it was basically just a tech demo saying it was a proof of concept. Look, this kind of collaborative game, this kind of cooperative multiplayer game with this kind of hidden information mechanic is solid gold, and we've proven that it can be done.
Yeah, it makes even a crap game great, right?
And the not even gameplay, the intro, the FMV before you play the game was little shit kids in a crappy childish story, and they took everything that was good about the atmosphere of Crystal Chronicles and did a 180. Like, I cannot express to you how awful and stupid it is. It's like, yeah, you're a kid and you got your little sister, you're gonna go on an adventure and you're all snarky with each other, but then you go and meet the Ukes. Now, the Ukes were a really interesting race in the original game, but the Ukes in this game talk in this rhymey, sing-songy bullshit. It's painful to listen to, and I say listen because it's voice acted.
But some parts are voice acted, some parts are
reading
the text on the screen.
Is awful. It's like if we took Star Wars, right? And then we made a new Star Wars, but instead of Yoda, like if all Yoda was, he was concentrated into his poor grammar. And that was everything that was left of Yoda.
Yeah, I mean, like, Yoda is awesome because he has the silly grammar, right? But it's simultaneously, like, endearing, but also wizened, right? And I think that's what they might have been thinking of when they made the Ukes like this. Like, oh, we can make the Ukes talk funny, and then they'll be kind of like Yoda. But no, the problem is the Ukes are just kind of come off as stupid as opposed to being sort of mysterious and like at times like and at times ha ha ha.
I mean, we
They're
went
just
from,
always grown.
We went from Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube, which if you haven't played the game, this is not a spoiler, but to me the defining moment of that game, the moment where everyone in the room went, wow,
is the loaf of Bannock.
Never underestimate the power of a loaf of Bannock.
And there's no loaf of Bannock in this.
No, there's just blah, 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 indubitably. Blah, 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 They say indubitably way too much.
Way too much. I wonder who the first person to say indubitably was, because I feel like a lot of silly cartoon characters have said that word over the years.
Indubitably.
Yes.
But I didn't think it could get worse than that. And then I met the first Lilty. And
the Lilties in the first Crystal Chronicles are sort of like dwarves, like but they were, they were small and they didn't look quite like dwarves except for their smallness. But
they were hardcore.
They were hardcore, sort of, dwarves, like This Lilty, the main Lilty in the game, is so like it's like a chibi. I don't know what it is, but
it's frightening.
And the main character like always goes and like rubs its head, and then it goes like squee or whatever it does. I don't know.
You know what? What bothers me too? There is a frightening amount of sexual tension between that little boy and that Lilty.
It's
but
scary.
the Lilty's like 100 years old, which just makes it even worse.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
And don't get me started on the humans either. It's like the atmosphere of the game is nothing. It's not. Final Fantasy like Advanced Tactics was a better atmosphere than this.
Yeah, I think the thing is the original Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube. Your characters didn't have names. They didn't have voice acting. They didn't have words. It was a lot more like they were, they weren't even like Link, right? They were not a part of the story. They were just people going out to get crystal water to help their town get through the year and avoid the miasma.
There wasn't even an epic plot. You were just, this is your job. If you fail, everyone that you know and love, your family who's writing letters to you will die, and that's the end of it.
And all the plot of the world, it was sort of like the plot of the world, and you were just happened to be in it, and it was revealed to you by people you meet on the road or things you see on your journey to go and collect more water and, stuff like that. And there wasn't this epic plot surrounding your characters. Your characters were sort of like, it was more of a role-playing game where you actually, like, my character was named Scott, and I felt like he was me, sort of, you know?
kind of like, it's one of those, the characters are nameless
Not as
and
much as
faceless.
like in a real role-playing game, but more than in a Final Fantasy.
You identify with them, and the world was not plotty, it was atmospheric. And that counted for so much. I mean, in this game, in the original game, when, we'd move between places and then we'd run into someone on the road and we'd get a little snippet of their story and then someone else's story. And everyone's story was a real story. It was interesting. There were real heroes going around the world and we were just some kids trying to do our job.
Yeah, that was that one Lilty who was like wicked badass with the horns. What was his name?
Oh, the Black Knight. What's his name?
No, not the Black Knight. The other one whose name was like Alto.
Oh yeah, I forget most of it.
But yeah, it was pretty awesome.
But so the atmosphere of this game is gone.
Yeah, it's basically generic, even worse than a Final Fantasy plot. It is a generic fantasy plot.
Mystic Quest had a less flimsy plot.
It's basically like, oh, the king is good, but he's been overcome by the bad guys, and the bad guys are in the temple and they're all evil. And
your
your
little
family's
kid,
involved.
You're a little kid, and you're destined to blah, 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 and you got your little kid sister with you, and yay.
And there's monsters all around town. You gotta go clear them out. Oh. It's pretty bad.
So, that aside...
Let's talk about the actual gameplay. Now, the gameplay is a little different. It's somewhat similar to the original Crystal Chronicles, right?
It's superficially kind of looks the same.
Yeah, and that you walk around and hit things, and you have, magic spheres you use to cast your magic spells, and you have, you sort of upgrade your items in a similar way. The problem is, they added in this platforming element. Now, I really don't have a problem. I like a platforming. Platforming actually is good because it sort of, makes it better than just a walk around hit things game. The problem is, the platforming is finicky and shitty. It's really hard to do, especially if you're trying to control 4 characters at once.
it also, had there been an atmosphere, it kind of would have ruined it. But luckily, there was no atmosphere to ruin.
Yeah, well, at least the gameplay didn't ruin the atmosphere. The atmosphere ruined the atmosphere.
Yes, but had the game had good atmosphere, I think jumping up and down trying to get to treasure chests
Like,
that contain nothing I care about, by the way.
Yeah. Here's an example of how the platforming is shitty, right? So each character has a different power that's needed to do platforming, right? So, for example, there'll be a very small platform, like enough for 1 or 2 characters to fit on comfortably, right? And you can only control one character at a time, and you switch between them, and you can sort of push the L button to teleport all the other characters near you. So, one character, the Lilty, has to make a pot, and then the pot will sort of activate on this platform. Then you need to get the Selkie to stand on the pot. Then the pot will hover. Then the Selkie does like a double jump off the pot. Then you need to teleport the Uke up to the new platform you're on so that you can use the stylus to turn on a torch to activate a thing. And
Now, before we go any further, because this is the reason why this game is shit. Like, this is the core of why this is a bad game.
Mhm.
Imagine if you had puzzles like that in the original Crystal Chronicles where there's 4 players, right?
Awesome.
Like, if puzzles like that, because the puzzles in the original Crystal Chronicles were as good as they could have been with the limitations of the technology. If they had puzzles like this where, like, I have, as the Selkie, have to fight my way to this side of the map and hold a position while you guys go and do this other puzzle, and then the door opens, and then we work together, and everyone has their own information and their own role to play. Can you play this Crystal Chronicles multiplayer?
You can, kind of, but it's a different game. The multiplayer is a different game than the single player.
Wait. So the only, you might tell that I'm asking questions where I know the answers
you can
here.
you can go to the levels where this platforming stuff is going on, you know, and you can do that platformy stuff multiplayer. It can happen. But actually, because of the way the levels are structured and stuff, it's actually really hard to coordinate all the different people to do these platformy things together and be in the same place at the same time. And like one guy makes the pot and getting your friend to jump on the pot. And on paper, that would be really great. But in reality, it just doesn't work out. And
well, part of that, I think, is because, one, the platforming part was really ill-conceived. But two, the way it's like playing the original Crystal Chronicles, you want to play it with other people because it's this shared experience. I mean, everyone who played the game goes, Loaf of Bannock, the end, and all, but playing it by yourself isn't really that fun. So you kind of are expected to have all your friends playing through the plot, and because your characters are faceless, and because the plot and the world are just atmospheric around you, you kind of get drawn in. But with this game, if you play it multiplayer, it's not like you're all just playing the plot together. It's like, hey, let's beat a dungeon together.
Yeah,
it's very like, I don't want to use the term episodic, but it's like an episodic show. It's not
it's basically like World of Warcraft, but there's no, big world or anything.
Speaking of World of Warcraft, unlike the other Crystal Chronicles, the game has leveling. Why?
The original Crystal Chronicles, all it had was when you beat a level, right? Of all the items you've picked up during the level, everyone gets to pick one, and whoever did the best in that level gets to pick first, right? And some of them would just be like +2 strength, but some of them would be like new Moogle pocket or whatever, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, there wasn't so much leveling as it was kind of a customization, because eventually you start getting duplicates and people
you're
even
only
out.
allowed to have one of everything, right? So eventually, or Moogle pockets you can get more than one of, but eventually you're gonna get all the items and then that's it, right? But you sort of choose which ones. Okay, let the Uke take the +2 magic, let the normal guy take the +2
or maybe
strength.
the Uke wants the +2 magic, but Rim doesn't want to give it up because he wants to cast spells, and he did better in that level, so he's just going to take it, and everyone goes, oh, man.
Yep, but the way this new one works, right, is you sort of just picking up stuff constantly. Like you kill a guy, and there's items all over the place.
I saw so many treasure chests that I didn't give a shit anymore, and I just stopped bothering.
You just keep pushing buttons to pick shit up and pick shit up. And
you also have to pick everything up individually.
If you want to get the good shit, you've got to go and do even more tricky platforming to get to trickier and trickier treasure chests.
Plus, unlike the previous Crystal Chronicles, I'm not even going to compare it to the previous Crystal Chronicles. In this game, the level of crap doesn't even matter. Customization of get all these items to build this item and build this item, and it's all this kind of Final Fantasy tacticsy stuff But unlike Final Fantasy Tactics, it has none of the charm and none of the interest.
Yeah, I think the original Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is so great because it was so different from most of the other Square Enix type of RPGs. But this one sort of takes that and reels it back into the Square Enix empire, and thus sort of ruining it and making it worthless.
It's like they made a proof of concept. They proved that a new kind of game could be made and that Nintendo had facilitated this. You know, because back then you had to connect the Game Boy Advances to the GameCube to get that experience. And now the technology is 1,000 times better. Yep. We could connect DSs to a Wii. We could connect DSs to each other. There's so many screens and so much processing power. And they decided, well, so we proved that we can make that awesome game.
We're going to make something worse.
Let's not make that game and forget about all the new game mechanic things we tried. And let's make something like every other game in the world and then make it shitty on top of that.
Yeah, let's concentrate more on the customizing of how your character looks, you know, by changing their items. Oh,
Which is fine in a stateful, like massively multiplayer game where you can at least show it to someone.
Well, you can. The idea is when you play against other people, they'll see your character.
But that's not the same. It's so meaningless.
Yep.
I mean, how many people care about whether in Advance Wars your Hawk is purple with gold hair or blue with white hair?
Maybe Japanese people. I don't know.
See, maybe the game appeals more to a Japanese audience, but I can tell you this. It doesn't appeal to people who like a game.
It doesn't
Nor
appeal to
does it
us.
appeal to someone who likes a story.
The one last thing I have to say about why this game is bad, and it's another comparison with the original. In the original, right, one person had the map, one person had where the items were, right? One person had where the bad guys were, and the other person had something else, right? Each person on their Game Boy Advance screen had different information, all right? And it wasn't perfect. I mean, the map was so much more useful than everything else.
But it was fun.
But it was fun communicating between the players all this information that, like, only one person knew where to go, but they had to tell everyone else where to go, you know? And there was the pot, which, you know, the busket.
Which was necessary, and a lot of people were blah about it, but it made for a lot of really interesting and fun gameplay.
It was sort of a double-edged sword, the busket. You know, on the one hand, it sort of forced everyone to stay in the same area, right? But on the other hand, it was sort of annoying and, you know, to carry it around all the time and hurt, and you'd get hurt and shit, right? But, you know, it sort of helped keep the game together in a way.
Plus, imagine with the new technology, they could have had places where you can all go wherever you want, but then sometimes you got to use the busket anyway.
Right. In this game, basically, if you're all on a screen, anyone can go anywhere on the screen that they want, right? So that whole busket stick together mechanic kind of falls apart because people just run around all over the place killing things on their own, whatever. And then you only need to all group up again when you want to go to the next screen. You have to go to the door at the same time. And the second thing is that everyone has all the same information. Everyone has the map. Everyone has the same thing. So that communication with the other players totally sort of falls apart. You don't need to communicate. You all just need to be like, are we done with the screen? All right, which screen do you want to go to? All right, that one? All right, everyone go to that one.
There's just so much wrong with this game that I think it's not even worth playing.
Yeah,
ever.
I'm sad I spent my money on it, but I'll give it to someone else, I guess. I can't throw it out. That seems kind of like a waste.
Do people want this game? You can try it.
Well, we'll sell it to you for cheap, I guess, like shipping plus a few bucks. I don't know. It's a $40 game. I'd give it up for like maybe 10.
See, this is, if nothing else,
maybe I'll just auction it or eBay.
The original Crystal Chronicles was like an experience if you played it with a group of friends in one go, or even just if you played it with a group of friends, because it wasn't just us.
And the same group of friends the whole time makes a real big difference, actually.
Yes, it does. But I don't know. That experience was such an amazing thing that I was willing to, sight unseen, spend $40 on a game that had a good chance of not even being close to that, because there was that tiny chance.
It had the same name, that was in, you know, the other, based on the cachet of the previous game with the same name. We bought the second game of the same name, and now this game was terrible, and now this is going to be like a WiiWare one.
Which is also, it might be the good part of ActRaiser, but you have to pay to customize it.
Right,
with
so that's
micro.
gonna be bad now.
And they've already said
tell
that Crystal Chronicles on the Wii, the real one, is primarily a single-player game, much like this one.
Oh, so screw that too. So they basically they made a great game, and then they made 3 follow-ups, and they're all gonna be shit. And one is shit, and I'm pretty sure the other two are gonna be shit. And Final Fantasy, I think, is completely dead to me, and all except for old Final Fantasy remakes.
The last ones I enjoyed are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7.
6.
I liked 7.
6.
I liked 6 a lot though.
And Legend 3 on the Game Boy.
Legend 2 was better.
Nope,
Legend 2.
Dad is a stealth fighter. I win.
I don't know. Legend 2 had the scene.
Dad is a stealth fighter. Regain your health by sitting on the toilet in the stealth fighter. I win.
Once again, Legend 2 had the scene where, like you have, like everyone has their music. Like Final Fantasy games are big about the music, even on the Game Boy. And there was like the heroes theme that played when the heroes were doing shit. And there's one point near the end of the game where you come across a room and you're eavesdropping, and in the other room are like the 3 mini bosses of the game talking to each other, and they've got these crystals that you need. And then your music starts playing, which you think, all right, we're going to bust in and fight him now. But instead, one of them looks up in that, Final Fantasy look up way in those games where the sprite changes a little bit and goes, where's that music coming from? Oh, crap, let's get out of here. And I'm like, oh, no, damn it.
Let me ask you, does that have, in that game, is your dad a V2 bomber?
You know what? In Final Fantasy Legend 1, instead of a ship, you got an entire island.
Yeah, but was your dad a V2 bomber?
In 4, my dad, I don't want to ruin Final Fantasy 4, but my dad was like a celestial pimp. No, your dad's not the whale.
I know, just...
And then I go to the moon in a whale.
Still, I really can't sort of beat the dad as a stealth bomber.
All right, I think we're done.
We're so done.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.